So this video is specifically targeting the high-low method technique and computing high-low method technique, given maybe this scenario where you've been told that if production exceeds a certain amount of units, then your fixed cost will change. So this is just another scenario where you will have like a step-up cost if your production changes. So first of all, as the high-low technique states, you first of all have to compute the variable cost. After the variable cost, then your fixed cost. From fixed costs, then of course you can get your overall total costs. So first of all, one thing to just take note, which we're going to state, this is actually in fact video 2 from the previous video on high-low method. So this is just actually a tip to take note about the high-low method technique. So, well, what guides us first of all? Remember, we're picking the highest cost and of course the lowest cost when finding variable costs, and of course the higher units and the lower units. Well, the model first of all states that as we are picking that highest cost, it should actually be guided by the highest units will guide you to which cost value you will pick as the highest cost. Therefore, even your lowest units, they will guide you to which lower cost that you will pick. So basically the units will determine which cost value, because at the end of the day you need to have a high cost, a low cost, and then lower units and higher units. So when you're picking the costs, just take note of this. It wasn't there in video 1, but this is a new tip on high-low method, that when you're picking the cost values, the highest units, since they are required according to the formula, the highest units will guide you to which high cost you will substitute in that formula. Then the lowest units will guide you with what? The lowest cost that you will pick. So to just get to understand all this, looking at this information on that screen, the highest units first of all are 50, right? And then what costs is at that highest unit. So basically the units will determine which cost you will go for. The whole point is that first of all determine your high and low units, then from there they will help you determine the high cost and low costs from there. So the higher units were 50, meaning in that formula for variable cost where there is high cost, which high cost do you put? The cost that is directly relating to this number of high units, that's the high cost, which is 50, directly relating to the 7310, and then your 26 there as the lower units, as we have just mentioned, will be directly relating to your lower cost there, which is 6566. So basically the costs are being determined by first of all the high and low units. So the higher units, they guide you to the cost that's directly relating to them. The lower units as well will directly relate to the units alongside them. Please take note of this technique, which was not mentioned at full length in the first video. So now you're solving that question. First of all, we said get the variable costs. So let's just compute variable costs quickly. So you are trying to compute first of all your variable costs. Your variable cost is equal to your said high costs minus the low costs over high units, low units. So as we have just depicted, those units will determine which cost values you put, by the way. I hope you've taken note of this in this video. So the highest units were 50. Which cost was directly in the same line as 50? 7310. The other one, 26, were the lowest units. What cost was directly in line with the 26? It's your 6556. So basically these units determine which costs you will put. That's all to just know. Therefore, when you compute, your variable cost is 31. Okay, so that's all on the variable cost. So we're computing total costs. Let's get back to the question. How do we now get fixed costs? So just before we get back to that question, fixed costs, first of all, we know that okay, fixed costs are equal to total cost minus variable costs. Which total cost do you choose if at the end of the day you're being asked to calculate total costs? So the high-low method technique states that you can choose between that higher cost value that you've used there in the question or a lower cost value. Basically, that's what you substitute on total cost. Between the high and the low cost values that you determined, any of those can work as your total cost. So in this case, I'll choose maybe the higher cost value which we had, which was about 7,310. Okay. Then just before we proceed, there was some detail about step-up cost in this question. Let's just refer back to the question quickly. So we are now looking back at that part where there might have been a possible step-up cost. So they said when output is 80 units or more, another factory unit must be rented and fixed costs therefore increase by 100%. So just from that statement there, that we will have to increase our fixed costs by 100% if the output we want to produce is more than 80. So this mostly applies to the output that you're now planning to produce, and then if that output you're planning to produce is more than that stated limit, then you have to increase your fixed cost. It's a must. So from the looks of it, it's like you want to now produce what? According to the statement below, let's see on the required. Okay, as a company, Horses calculate the estimated total costs of producing 100 units in 2014. So 100 units, we are already above what they've given us on the limit, right? And they said if you just want to produce more than the 80, definitely you have to increase your fixed cost by 100%. So whatever fixed cost value that we get, we have to multiply it by, in fact, times 2, because when you say 100% to increase by almost as much as it is right now. So we will convert it very soon, the same fixed cost, and we'll see how much it will change. So first of all, determine that fixed costs using first that high-low technique, then we'll come and add on 100% to it. Yeah. Okay. So then they've just mentioned something about variable costs. Let's not ignore that detail. Variable cost per unit is forecast to rise at 10% as of 2014. So we are going to 2014. We also have to increase because we're leading to 2014, and we cannot ignore that detail. So even variable costs will be increased by 10%. So we are trying to compute here, right? 31 was the variable cost we got times 10% because they said it will increase. So just say times the best way you would show an increase, just say times 1.1. Why have I done 1.1? It's like something, all percentages are like out of 100. So when you say you're actually going to increase, so you're going to like now 110%. Or to make life easier, let's just do it like this. 31 times 10%, 3.1. This 3.1 will be added to that 31. That's basically what we meant there, giving you what? 34.1 as your new variable cost per unit, because they said it will increase as well. So remember, we're trying to compute fixed cost. If you rewind in the video, and fixed cost computation states that on that part where there's total cost, you can either pick maybe the highest costs or the lowest cost that you have used in this technique. So we got the highest one, which was 7,310. Okay, according to what the 50 units showed us, 7,310, of course. But I want to say minus that variable cost per unit, right? Okay, variable cost per unit was 34.1. We've just found it as a new increase. Open brackets, what units will you multiply? Because this 34 is just a per unit cost, so you multiply it by the units which were attached to this high cost, 50 together. That's your fixed cost, 5605. So remember, we're not done. They said fixed costs, if production that you want to produce is more than 80, you will have to increase it by 100%. So 100% is like multiplying this by 100, right? It only just give you the same figure, right? So it's like going to be this plus itself. Okay, 05. So there as well, you have your, what's this? Your total 11 to 10. So from there now you have your new fixed cost, because we are just following the instructions. If you want to now produce units that are above above 80, you have to increase them by 100%, and we have increased by 100%. It's going to be equal to its previous cost and adds up to 11 to 10. Then from that fixed cost, now we can produce the overall total cost, as I'll share on the next screen. Okay, so if anything, that 34, the one I was just computing there, the 34.1, as the new variable costs will be for the period of 2014. So first of all, these results which were drawn from that table, they were from that last year's period, which was 2013. So just before we would have used it first of all in the computation of fixed costs, we will wait until the final computation when we're finding total cost as of 2014. That's when this can apply, because they've stated that in 2014, that's when variable costs will go up. These figures were for the year 2013. So just before we make that increase yet, let's first compute the fixed cost as of 2013 first of all. So the fixed cost as of 2013 is the same way. We'll get the 7310. Okay, that was the highest cost, which you can choose between the higher or the lower costs. Then the variable costs, in this case, first of all, as of 2013, we're still in that 2013 year, 31 multiplied by the higher units which are corresponding with this cost value. This should give you a fixed cost of 5760 actually. This was for 2013. Then now, before you now proceed, then now there's that row first. Okay, as you go to 2014 to produce 100 units, 100 units is already above the limit they set, and they said fixed cost will increase by 100%. So it's just a double of that. When you add these two as the new increase, 11,520. That's the new fixed cost as of the new year that will be coming in when they start producing 100 units in 2014. And then they told us, okay, we are now computing the total cost, which is equal to this, right? Total cost is equal to fixed cost plus variable cost. Okay, so fixed cost, we've just gotten them as 11,520. Variable cost, what are we going to substitute on variable costs? They said that as of 2014, because we are computing for the year 2014, and the question stated that, so as you compute for the year 2014, variable costs will increase by 10%, which if you rewind in the video we're solving it on the screen while we're sharing the calculator, you found that it was 34.1 as a new variable cost. Then you can now multiply it to these new units that they want to produce in the year 2014, which is 100 units. So you can now just put it here for the sake of that space that side, and therefore you do get your total computation of fixed costs. So let's just share the screen of the calculator and find the fixed cost, the total cost. So we are just computing now 11,520 plus open brackets. So just for open brackets is the 34.1 variable cost, but open brackets multiplied by what? 100 units. So I want to produce 100 together, 14,930 as your total costs. That's all. That's how you compute total cost. So in a scenario where there is a step-up cost that your fixed cost will change, this is basically how you approach. You just look at, okay, what do they want to produce now? Is it more than the limit? Then you apply those rules as according to this video, and just take note of how we pick the high cost and of course your lower costs. This video has actually highlighted them in detail because it was an addition to the first video of high-low method.